In 1998, a troubling incident in New York City brought the issue of racial profiling by law enforcement to the forefront. A case that shook the city to its core, revealing deep racial tensions between police officers and communities of color. But this wasn't the first time it happened, and sadly, it wouldn't be the last. What if I told you that for decades before the 2000s, the NYPD had been accused of implementing a series of discriminatory practices that specifically targeted individuals based on their race and ethnicity? This was especially true for African American and Latino communities. Officers were known to make stops, questionings, and even arrests based solely on the color of someone's skin rather than on reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. This disturbing trend not only violated the fundamental rights of New Yorkers, but also left a lasting impact on the city's social fabric. So let us rewind the clock back to the 1990s and explore a pivotal incident that brought this pressing issue into the spotlight, helping to fuel calls for reform and justice. Racial profiling had become a widespread problem in law enforcement by the 1990s, and in New York City, tensions were high. Now, the exact case that sparked these tensions in 1998 might not be a household name like the Diallo case from 1999, which took place a year later. But the details surrounding the Diallo case will be mentioned. Let us focus on one particular incident where a person or persons were subjected to racial profiling by police officers. In this instance, the victim was targeted simply because of their race or ethnicity, despite the absence of any reasonable suspicion or legal basis for doing so. Imagine being pulled over while driving, stopped at a corner while walking, or even questioned without any indication of wrongdoing, all because of the color of your skin. Well, during the 1990s, this became a harsh reality for many African Americans and Latinos in New York City. The incident in 1998 involving Amadou Diallo, an unarmed Guinean immigrant, epitomized the worst fears of these communities. Mistaken identity led to a barrage of 41 bullets fired by police, underscoring the urgent need for change. Following this traumatic event, New Yorkers took to the streets in protest, demanding accountability and an end to racial profiling. The outpouring of grief and anger reverberated across the city, echoing the pain and frustration felt by communities subjected to years of discriminatory practices. Although there might not have been a prominent case in 1998 that ignited these sentiments, the tension was palpable. As the nation grappled with the Diallo case and the broader issue of police brutality, activists, community leaders, and lawmakers came together seeking justice and reform. The collective cry for change gained momentum, pressuring authorities to acknowledge the deep-rooted problem of racial profiling within the NYPD. During this period, New York City's stop and frisk policy became notorious for its racially biased application. African Americans and Latinos were disproportionately subjected to these practices, often stopped without justification and frisked without probable cause. The pervasiveness of racial profiling contributed to a climate of fear and distrust, making everyday interactions with law enforcement a potential source of danger and humiliation. One example of this tension could be something like the Central Park Five, a group of teenagers who were wrongfully convicted for a crime they didn't commit. Their story highlighted the racial disparities in the criminal justice system and the dangers of police coercion. It wasn't until years later that the true perpetrator confessed, exonerating the 5 innocent men. However, despite these harrowing experiences, communities of color demonstrated remarkable resilience. They organized, protested, and advocated for change, determined to challenge the status quo and demand a more equitable and just society. Groups like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP, played a pivotal role in pushing for reform and ensuring that the voices of the marginalized were heard. But the fight for justice and equality was far from easy. Systemic racism and ingrained biases persisted, creating a formidable obstacle on the path to progress. It took years of tireless activism and legal battles to bring about meaningful change. Today, the fight against racial profiling continues. While significant strides have been made, the legacy of the past still resonates. Incidents like the deaths of George Floyd, Eric Garner, and Breonna Taylor serve as stark reminders of the challenges that remain. Looking back, the tension in New York City during the 1990s serves as a powerful reminder of the urgency for reform and the transformative power of the civil rights movement. The activism of that era laid the groundwork for continued progress, urging us to confront deeply rooted issues and strive for a future where justice and equality prevail. The story of racial profiling in New York City isn't just a chapter in history. It's an ongoing fight for justice. While we've come a long way, there's still work to be done. Will the voices for change finally be heard? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this issue. Do you think racial profiling is still a major issue in law enforcement today? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories that touch on real societal issues. Thanks for watching. Until next time.